Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tony, and I've got Rob the plumber here. So today we're going to talk to you about lift kits and the things people do to install them the wrong way, and lift kits in general.
And these guys are sponsoring us.
They're not sponsoring us. We just happen to like their beer.
Absolutely. We like these guys better, but we'll drink your beer. Absolutely.
We love the Bruins up there.
Yep.
I went out to eat with a couple of guys from Montreal a couple of weeks ago. I sat down at the table, and the first thing they asked me was, "You related to Brad Marchand?" I was like, "No." so he let me stay. But yeah, no, we're not sponsored by Moosehead Beer. We just happen to like Moosehead Beer, and it happens to go with Woods, lift kits, New Hampshire, Montreal, the whole Canada thing. So we're gonna have a couple of Moosehead beers. We'll talk about lift kits.
Yep.
So let's roll into this, and hopefully we'll answer some questions for you guys that are about to install a lift kit, or you have a truck that rides like a dump truck and you just put a lift kit in and you don't know why. Rob over here, back in the day, back in the 80s, I think he had a lift kit made out of hockey pucks and duct tape.
Absolutely.
So
2x4s also.
Oh man, what a disaster. Remember guys doing that back then? They had Toyota trucks and pull into the parking lot. Hey, look at my 12-inch lift kit. Then take a corner and the whole bed would fall right off the axle.
Yep. Hey, those 2x4s didn't work too good.
Nah. So the lift kits have come such a long way over the years. I mean, things are designed the right way. Now you can buy a whole lift kit, right from like Rough Country or Rubicon or whoever it may be. And, you get everything in a box. You can put it in. And it's set up for that vehicle. Except for the way you install it sometimes. And let's go over
You got to put it the right
where
way.
your pitfall might be.
Yep.
So let's tackle some of those questions, and we're going to pull the Jeep out of the garage, and we'll show you a few things. So what happens is a lot of times when people put lift kits in, they'll have the whole truck up in the air. They'll put all the lift kit in, they'll put the suspension in, whether it's leaf springs like this truck or coil springs or like control arms and stuff like that. They have the whole truck up in the air. They tighten everything down, they zap all the bolts together on the control arms or the leaf springs, and they put it on the ground, and then it rides like a dump truck. So 99.9% of the time, unless the manufacturer says in the instructions to do it a different way, you should put your lift kit on, tighten up the bolts and stuff so they're not tight, but just snug. Yep. You put the vehicle on the ground, and while the vehicle is on the ground, with the suspension loaded, like the control arms, if it happens to be a coil spring lift, if it's a leaf spring, if it has a leaf spring lift in it, like this Jeep does, put the Jeep on the ground, your truck on the ground, go around and torque the lift kit to the manufacturer's recommendations. I think this one was like 100 or something like that, but I had to go all around, torque everything down, and then I had to torque it again, and it'll make your truck ride level. Stand back for a minute. And this is on a little bit of an incline, but the Jeep sits level. I've had this kit in for a couple of years now. The kit rides good. The Jeep rides as it did from the factory with this lift kit in it. It's a 4.5-inch lift kit, but it rides well. These Jeeps never rode like a Cadillac from the factory. They always kind of rode like a hobby horse. So you go back and you guys know if you have one. But for what it is, it rides halfway decent.
It rides better off-road than on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
It's made for off the road.
So with that said, if you're changing out control arms or you're putting the lift in, a truck or something like that, it has control arms, load the suspension up with the vehicle on the ground. Then, like I said, go around, torque all the bolts, unless somewhere in the manufacturer's instructions it says not to do that and to do it a different way. That's typically how it's done. So you get the best overall ride out of your truck with a brand new lift in it. I had a guy that I knew a little while ago. He had a brand new Jeep, and he put a nice, expensive lift kit in it. And I saw it going down the road, and it had a rake to it. And I had said, how'd you tighten the suspension up? And he's like, oh, I did it all up in the air. And that's why.
Yeah.
You have to load the suspension, put the truck on the ground, and then tighten all the bolts that way, and it'll leave the truck off, and it'll ride a lot better. So I hope you guys learned something out of this video. So if you guys have any other tips or tricks, or if you have a question, leave a comment, and we'll reply back to it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of great content coming out, and I hope you learned something out of the video. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and we'll see you out on the internet.
And make sure you get your moose head.
Take it easy, guys.